the Red Wings came back from 4-0 down. They were dead. They were dead in the water. And this isn't the first time this year that I say from like a season playoff perspective, they've been dead in the water. How big was that win yesterday? Well, when you weigh it all out, they're right back in the mix as far as the playoffs go. They're 5 points behind, but they have 3 games at hand. They came off the life support and jumped back in last night. And look to, Jake Wallman last night, there was a lot of talk about this. And Terry, you had some high praise for Jake Wallman and what he did when the Red Wings got the overtime winner. If you haven't seen it as of yet, he may have hit the greatest gritty in the history of NHL hockey so far, as you see it here on the screen after the game-winning goal for the Red Wings. And T-Foss, you had some high praise for that gritty.
Yeah, the gritty was great. It's the greatest gritty by a white guy in history. And he did it on skates. That's high praise from me.
That is high praise from you. Closing out the WoodwardSports.com chat poll, 78% of you say that you support the Wave. So in honor of Wallman's overtime winner and Selly, as they call it in the NHL circles, we will do another Woodward Sports chat poll. Could Darren McCarty pull off the gritty on skates? Yes or no? He'll give you the answer. Don't spike the Kool-Aid.
Darren McCarty couldn't pull off the gritty on the pavement. Right? He'd have a little bit of trouble.
Let's run it. Do you think Darren McCarty would be able to pull off the gritty on skates?
I can do anything if I practice.
If you practice
but
there you go.
That looks so smooth. He's probably a good dancer, Jake Wallman.
Yeah.
Detroit Dabber 313, who was first in the WoodwardSports.com chat thread, says it was the first gritty in NHL history. We can't confirm that.
I think it is. Trust me.
One of the things, and I saw this, and I think it was Klompsauce that said it, though, is that I remember we had a big comeback, and I believe it was the 95-96 season, and we were in Boston. And I remember this because Scotty was making a point because he sat Drapes, Primo, and Cicerelli out of the lineup, and we were down 5-1 to Boston and ended up coming back, taking it to overtime and winning in overtime. Why do I remember that? Because we were in Boston and there were car bombs that night going. Not the real car bombs, at the bar car bombs in celebration. So that was a big road victory win, but we came back and I remember I think Stevie scored the overtime winner. But, getting to yesterday's game, you know what I liked to Neil answered your question, right? The big question you had is about Husso had to be the guy. You were done with Nedeljkovic. We needed somebody back in. I mentioned Stevie had addressed it, brought in another goaltender. You're going to go with 3 goaltenders. Marcus Hallberg comes in last night. Husso, probably one of his worst games. Right, gets behind, team doesn't play well, 4-0, but you bring a goaltender in that gives you a chance to get back in the game. Number 1, so right there, that pays off. If you want to see is Steve Yzerman, hashtag Yzer plan, there is some proof to why you trust the Yzer plan. To your proof, another thing that I really loved is you look at how this comeback was sort of initiated, and it's through the young guys. I brought up, yes, Michael Rasmussen and the way that he's evolved and played, right? Big part of that game yesterday. How about Jonathan Berggren getting on the board? Joe Veleno playing big minutes, blocking big shots. But Neil, also, if you listen to that game, why did they score late in the game?
Because a save was made on a 3-on-1.
And what else? Puck possession. They won those face-offs on the power play that ended up in the back of the Pittsburgh net. They did all the things that they needed to do to get back in the game, the little things. And it was done by the guys that are doing the yeoman's work. You're not hearing Larkin, Kubalik, Raymond, Kopp, right? You're seeing guys like Veleno, the Berggrens, your third and your fourth line stepping up. So what a team win. And to that point, who drops the gritty with the OT winner? Jake Wallman. What have I been saying? What did I say yesterday? You see the way they're mixing it around. He's playing minutes on the first line with Mo Sider. They got a lot of confidence in this kid. Why? Because he can skate. And again, look, up ice, bing bang, putting in the overtime winner on 3-on-3. This is a huge win I want everybody to mark this, and we'll see, because now good teams, you can't lay an egg tonight. You got to go out with that same attitude and continue the way you finished the last 2 periods in that game. You can't have a layoff. That's because of the youth. That's what you worry about. But this could be a big win for these guys because of how they did it.
You buying that, T-Foss?
It could be, but the fact that they got to play tonight. NHL and NBA schedules are just so ongoing that
there's no memory, man.
Yeah, there's no memory. You always look for a spark. Now, there could be a spark with the way the Wings played last night, and there also could be a spark where the Pistons sort of fought last night and held up to their manhood. So maybe one of them will get a spark or something. Who knows?
Yeah, but also too confidence, right? Because what did Hellberg do is, stop one of the greatest players we were talking about, Sidney Crosby, on a breakaway. Made the save when he needed to make at whatever time. Doesn't matter what the score is, gave yourself an opportunity to win. Yeah, Terry, you're right. It could. That's all I'm saying. It could. But to the biggest point to last night, to what we talked about in the last few weeks about what are they going to do about goaltending because Husso's their only savior. Well, I think you got proof last night, Neil, that's not just the case.
Well, here's what I was told. I heard that Nedeljkovic slipped into a Husso uniform and got
snuck
himself
out
in the
there.
game. Right.
WoodwardSports.com chat thread. And Chuck Brewer talks about it, and he says Husso's struggling. He's given up 17 goals in the last 4 games now. And Chuck, that is correct, but they're 2-0 in the last 2. You know what I'm saying? Like, when Hellberg came in, he gave them a chance. That's all I was asking for, man. And D-Mac, going back to it, last night, and I got to be consistent with this because I mentioned it, those games Nedeljkovic played, those were points that were thrown away. Last night was points that were stolen. They stole those points yesterday.
And you could even say that. And that's...
And Hellberg stole them. He stole them.
Absolutely. Well,
and Nedeljkovic would not have been capable of doing that. I'm sorry. He would not have been.
Well, that's why he wasn't in the net.
Bingo.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what good teams do. That's what good general managers do. You give yourself an opportunity. So I would say, Neil, to your point, Steve Yzerman had been seeing it more like you. Hence why Hellberg got in the net and gave himself an opportunity to show. So definitely that's his win.
Rad Dad Scott, Neil is saying we have to score at least 5 to win, like having net and net. No, that's not true, because there is a track record of Husso playing well, as opposed to the other way around.
If you're playing against Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh, you're probably going to have to score more goals. Those are good teams.
Right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it is that. And here's the deal. And this only reaffirms the, "What's the plan?"
1919.
Give me one, D-Mac. Just one. One.
What's the plan? 1919.
All right, there. Terry, that only reaffirms it to me because, look, and I know the sentiment with Nedeljkovic. Go through the chat thread right now. And when I spoke out and spoke ill of him, I had to draw the sword a little bit on that. The fans like him and everything like that. And I'm sure he's a great guy. But it shows to me, it reaffirms, Terry, when the time comes for Steve Yzerman to make the decision, he's going to make the decision. You know what I'm saying? I don't. There are no Stevie's guys, or there are no. There's nothing implied or anything like that. The bottom line is, you either help us win or you don't help us win. And if you don't help us win, you will not be on the ice. Period. End of story. I don't care what kind of guy you are. Any of that.
I predicted that Steve Yzerman or the Wings would make a change or decision on the goalies by the first or second week of January. It looks like they started a little bit early. Now, let's go back. If you played this game a month ago, and then Husso has a bad game, and then you bring in Nedeljkovic, the Wings probably lose 9-2 rather than rally and
Here's the big thing. And yes, Brandon, we do agree we're lockstep as far as the Wings are auditioning for a number 1 center. When Dylan Larkin's your number 2 center, you'll be good. So until they get one, that's the next step they have to take. But it's also you're treading water, getting these points against teams in your division while you're also getting your Veranas, your Fabries, your Bertuzzi's, as Mike G says, your cavalry is sort of coming back, whereas goals where you're looking. So you are going to get healthier as it goes. And if you can find a way to win, Neil, you know what? Yes. 17 goals in the last 4 games, but 2 victories in the last, being able to even it out. You have to take it. You have to take it and be aware of where your deficiencies are.
If Yzerman doesn't make that move, they don't get those points last night.
But it goes down to exactly what did Derek Lalonde say when he came in here? What I learned in Tampa Bay is it starts goaltender out. So they knew immediately that there was a deficit in net before January that they needed to address, and they did. And last night is absolute proof of why. #WhyIsItPlaying 1919.
1919.
1919. There you go.